from Kyoto. I went there on a little vacation with my mom while she was visiting us here in Korea, and it was so nice to spend some quality time with her because we don't see each other so much anymore since I moved here to Korea. And it was also her first time in Japan, so we did a lot of sightseeing, and I also introduced a lot of Japanese food to her. Well, mainly desserts, to be honest, but that's what matters, right? So today I want to introduce our 7 favorite places that we visited in Kyoto. They are mainly temples and shrines, and I will also provide some background information because I think it's really interesting. And there will also be a Best of Tokyo Part 2, focusing on only the nicest cafes that we went to. I think that's even more interesting, to be honest. So subscribe if you want to see that next week. And also all the exact names and addresses are linked down below in the description box because I know that my Japanese pronunciation sucks. Okay? Number 1 is a Buddhist temple. It's called Kiyomizu-dera. Kiyomizu means clear or pure water. And it's a Buddhist temple that was completed in 778, and today it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And the interesting thing here is that not a single nail was used for the entire construction. When we arrived there, the temple looked more like an art installation by Crystal because right now they're renovating the roof until March 2020. But don't worry if you visit during that time because there is so much more to see on the temple ground anyway. During the Edo period, there was this tradition that was saying that if you survive a jump from the temple stage, it's like 13 meters, then your wish will be granted. So 234 people tried to do that. 85% survived, and thankfully this tradition was prohibited in 1872. And this is where the saying in Japanese to jump off the stage at Kiyomizu comes from, and it means to give it your best, to give one's all, like the English expression to take the plunge. Beneath the main hall is a waterfall. It's called Otowa, and it consists of 3 streams that all fall into a pond. And that streams are supposed to have wish-granting powers. One being longevity, the second one was success in school, and third was success in love. But you're not supposed to drink from all 3 because that's considered greedy. The entire temple complex is pretty big and also includes many other smaller different shrines. For example, the Jisho shrine, and this one is dedicated to the god of love and matchmaking. That shrine possesses 2 love stones that are 18 meters apart, and if you go between those 2 stones with your eyes closed and then touch the other stone at the end, then it says that you will find your true love. You can access the temple through the Higashiyama area, but my ultimate pro tip is to access it through a mausoleum, which leads me to point number 2. Number 2 is called Otani Honbyō, and it's a mausoleum that is dedicated to Shinran Shonin. And he was actually the founder of the Shin Buddhism tradition, and he was quite a rebel. He broke with Japanese tradition altogether and started this new movement that opened the benefits of Buddhism to everyone. Accidentally discovered this other Buddhist temple on the way there, and it looked so cool, and there was no one, and we could just discover everything all by ourselves. And I don't exactly know the name because I can't read the kanji, but it's in the description box, so if you copy and paste that into Google, then you will be able to find it. And on Google Maps you can't really see the path, but it's there. I promise. still recommend to visit the Higashiyama area. You can just do that on the way back from your temple, and that's really the kind of Kyoto that you would see on Instagram and how you would imagine a historic Kyoto, because it just looks like a film set. It's one of the city's best preserved historic districts, and you can buy a lot of sweets there and pottery and all kinds of tourist trips. And that area also closes up relatively quickly around 5 and 6, so also consider that. Number 3 is Kinkakuji. It's also very known as the Golden Pavilion, and it's probably the most famous temple in Kyoto. The official name of the temple is, by the way, Ryoan-ji, but people call it Kinkakuji because it's so famous for the Golden Pavilion. And it has a quite interesting history. It was first completed in 1397, but then a monk set it on fire in 1950. If you're further interested in that story, there is also a book about that monk written by Mishima Ukyo, and I accidentally saw this book the same day we were visiting the temple, and I already heard a lot about the writer, so I was really curious and picked it up. And so far it's been a really interesting read. I mean, I'm only like on page 57, but still, it's really nice. After that little burning incident, the temple was fortunately reconstructed in 1955, and in 87 they also renewed the gold gilding, and they used 200,000 pieces of leaf gold for the entire structure, which is 20 kilo of gold. I mean, wow, that's a lot, right? Needless to say, the pavilion looks stunning. It is so gold, so shiny that it's really hard to avert your eyes. When we visited, the purple irises were blooming, and it was a perfect complementary contrast with the gold, and then you see the mountain in the background. That was another really memorable moment of the trip. The only thing that made the entire experience a little bit stressful was the enormous crowd. There were so many people, and I know I'm in no position to complain because I'm one of them, but just be mentally prepared for a lot of people. The next place is called Ryōan-ji. It literally means the Temple of the Dragon at Peace, and it's another Zen temple. It's also a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and to be honest, I wasn't that impressed. I'm sorry to say that. Maybe I just don't get it, but my mom really liked it, so I decided to include it anyway. The temple has Japan's most famous rock garden. The complex was formerly a residence, but it got turned into a temple in 1450. Further history about the garden is pretty much unknown, also its meaning. There are some theories that it represents infinity because there used to be 9 stones in the rock garden before, but now there are 15. And some other people believe that it represents rocks in a sea. Yeah, I don't know. But quite interesting is that from every perspective, one rock is always hidden from the viewer. So I think that's quite interesting. But to be honest, more interesting was the surrounding park. It has a pond, a nice walking trail, and it was very relaxing, and it wasn't busy. So I really enjoyed going for a little walk there. Place number 5 is a real must-see if you go to Kyoto. It's called Arashiyama. Arashiyama really has so beautiful scenery, and you can rent a boat there or a rickshaw, or you can also visit the monkey park, and it also has a wonderful bridge, but it's probably best known for the bamboo forest. Is maybe a little bit misleading because actually it's just a 300-meter long pathway, but it's still really beautiful and worth a visit. Bamboo has a long history in Japanese legends and myths, and it's supposed to be planted there to protect the temples from evil. And bamboo is also a symbol of strength because it's a very strong material and it's famous for its durability. What really surprised me here was the interesting soundscape that the bamboo creates, because when the wind is blowing gently, then the bamboo knocks against each other and it creates this really nice sound, almost like a wind chime. And also be prepared for a big crowd. If you want to have a serene nature connecting moment, then you should probably go there at 6 a.m. in the morning. Number 6 is Fushimi Inari Taisha, and I know you've seen that coming, right? I mean, obviously this is probably one of the most famous Shinto shrines in Japan, maybe even the most famous one. The Shinto shrine is famous for its thousands of torii gates, and it's dedicated to Inari, the god of rice. Merchants and businesses traditionally worshipped Inari as the patron of business, because in the past having a lot of rice also meant that you're rich. You will see a lot of fox statues on the entire temple ground because they're supposed to be Inari's messengers. The earliest structures were built in 711 on the Inari hill, and it's the most important shrine of all the Inari shrines in Japan. The highlight of this shrine is probably the countless amount of torii gates. The most famous torii pathway is called Senbon Torii, and it has 800 torii gates. But over the entire temple complex there are over 10,000, and no one exactly knows how many there are because every day they are getting removed, replaced, restored, so I guess no one can exactly keep track about that. Maybe you're wondering where all the torii gates are coming from. Each gate is donated by an individual or a business in the hope of receiving a lot of fortune and good luck with their business. The name of the company or the person is inscribed in black ink on the torii gate. The custom of donating this torii gates actually already started in the Edo period, so they were donating it for their wishes to come true, and once the wish comes true you can replace the torii gate by a even bigger torii gate. So a quite clever business model, I think. You can hike up the entire mountain, and the higher you get, the less people there are. And there is also a really nice cafe around there, which I will introduce in the next video. And needless to say here, again, the place is crazy crowded. But you can go there at 6 a.m. I heard then it's pretty nice, but I don't mind so much. We went there on a Sunday and they also had some performances there, which was really cool, but it sounded really interesting, almost like that song from Ghost in the Shell. You know what I mean? And number 7, last but not least, is called Ginkakuji. The official name of that temple is Jisho-ji, but it's also just called Ginkakuji. Ginkakuji literally means Temple of the Silver Pavilion. It was built in 4082 as the retirement villa of the shogun back then. He was obsessed with art, so he decided to model it after the Kinkakuji, and after his death it was turned into a Zen temple. Ironically, the pavilion is not silver, it's white, and I heard that it was supposed to be silver, but because of the Onin War back then, the construction was getting delayed, and then it never got finished. Other sources say that the pavilion was used to be covered with black lacquer, and the reflection of the moonlight gave it this silvery appearance in the past. Back then, Ginkakuji became the center of the Higashiyama culture that was evolving back then, and it was very famous for their tea ceremony, flower arrangements, architecture, and also no theater. What makes the temple really special and unique is the dry sand garden that it has. It's called Sea of Silver Sand, and it has this massive sand cone called the moon viewing platform. It also has a really nice moss garden with a lot of streams and ponds, and it's so nice to walk around there, and there are so many little details, and the way it's maintained, it was really amazing. If you hike up all the way, then you have a really nice view over the temple grounds, and you also see the city in the background. I hope this was helpful and not too much of a history lesson. I'm always very interested in these background stories whenever I travel and visit new places. And of course there are so many more interesting places to see in Kyoto, so if you have any special suggestions, then please let me know in the comments, because to be honest, I already started a bucket list for the next Kyoto trip, whenever that might be. Thanks a lot for watching. You can text me on Instagram if you have any suggestion for a Korea-related topic or some information about Seoul or something like that. Okay, then that's it for today, and see you next time in the video about the best dessert cafes in Kyoto. Great. Bye.